The Arizona Wildcats beat the Texas Southern basketball team. Final score: Arizona Wildcats 93 to the Texas Southern Tigers 72. Um, the 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 way that I saw the Arizona Wildcats playing this game was somewhat lackadaisically. And I was looking at something. Um, I was looking at something that the Arizona Wildcats were had 13 assists, while Texas Southern had 5 assists. The Arizona Wildcats had 12 offensive rebounds, as compared to the Texas Southern Tigers, which had 8. Um, uh, the Arizona Wildcats had 5 out of 11 from three-point land, whereas Texas Southern had 5 out of 12 from three-point land. Pretty much, if you look at the total rebounds, at 35 rebounds for the Arizona Wildcats as compared to 19 total rebounds for the Texas Southern. But the reason why Texas Southern kind of kept this game, the first half, Arizona Wildcats were winning by 21 points, 54 to 33. Then the second half, the Arizona Wildcats scored 39 points, and the Texas Southern Tigers scored 39 points also. So it was tied up in the second half as far as the amount of points scored. And that made me think about Texas Southern. I looked at them, and I really appreciate the NCAA.com March Madness Live, so I could watch this game, a little bit more at my leisure and watch it on my computer. So that was a nice thing, and then I could kind of analyze what was going on a little bit more. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because Texas Southern was short. They were shorter than the big Arizona Wildcat players, and so it was almost like David and Goliath type of thing going on there, and so the Arizona Wildcats had athleticism. They had a lot of things in their favor: athleticism, size, um, uh, those two big things, and they were going against Texas Southern Tigers. But the Texas Southern Tigers did quite well with getting offensive rebounds, because if you look in the beginning, in the first half, sure, Arizona Wildcats were up by 20 points, but the offensive rebounds, Texas Southern had 4 offensive rebounds as compared to the Arizona Wildcats, which only had 3 offensive rebounds, which is, I think that's kind of unexcusable, because the Arizona Wildcats had, you know, a major height advantage. So I think that the Arizona Wildcats should have dominated on the offensive boards. They should have got more rebounds. But the reason why that the Arizona Wildcats did not get more offensive rebounds was because the Arizona Wildcats, it looked to me that they were going through the motions. The Arizona Wildcats were just going through the motions. That's all it was. I mean, they passed the ball off a few times, and then dribble penetration and kick it out, and things like that. And it seems like they didn't really care, because they were ahead by 20 points. So I mean, it was fine to them. I think Coach Miller for the Arizona Wildcats was kind of frustrated, because the Arizona Wildcats pretty much scored the same amount of points as the Texas Southern Tigers in the second half. They both had 39, so it was kind of frustrating probably for coach of University of Arizona Wildcats, Sean Miller. But the Texas Southern didn't give up. They had a fire in their belly, and they kept on playing just as hard and even harder in the second half. And that's kind of when I think that's a little bit whenever the Arizona Wildcats kind of let off the gas and started putting on the brakes a little bit. And that was whenever Texas Southern was able to kind of maintain the beating. Wasn't able. They weren't going down without a fight. They played hard, and whenever I look at the Arizona Wildcats as far as their athletic ability and how much they should have dominated this Texas Southern team completely, probably should have beaten them by 40 points, then it makes me harken back to the Arizona Wildcats playing against UCLA and how close that was. I mean, I think it was a 4-point game. In the Pac-12 tournament, and it was maybe a 10-point game, earlier in the season, and that was at McHale. That was at home for the Arizona Wildcats, and they only beat them by 10. And everybody else, the Arizona Wildcats beat them by 20 points. The only other person that the Arizona Wildcats didn't beat by a huge amount was Utah, and that was away. So, it's kind of, and one more thing that brings about the wildness, the craziness of this season of basketball in general for everybody is that UCLA won their game today against who did they played at SMU, and SMU was ranked higher, ranked number 7, and the UCLA Bruins were ranked number 10, and it was I mean that seeding, it might not make a whole lot of difference, but anyway, UCLA was not expected to win this game, and when I go across the boards looking at different stats, then I'm like, where is why did UCLA win this game? You look at offensive rebounds. UCLA had 7 offensive rebounds. SMU had 10 offensive rebounds. SMU had more. You look at the total rebounds. 34 rebounds for the UCLA Bruins as compared to 33 rebounds for SMU, but that's hardly anything. That's hardly anything different. More importantly is the offensive rebounds. 12 assists for the SMU Mustangs as compared to only 10 assists for the UCLA Bruins. 18 turnovers for the UCLA Bruins as compared to only 9 turnovers for the SMU Mustangs. But the thing that jumps out, and the reason why I think that the UCLA Bruins were able to pull out that victory is because 10 for 20 from three-point land. They shot and they made 10 free throws, or 10 three-pointers as compared to the SMU Mustangs, which made 7 three-pointers. And they shot 7 for 16. So, and if you look at that, and if you look at the field goal percentage was 42% for the UCLA Bruins, as compared to 36% for the SMU Mustangs, and you kind of see how the UCLA Bruins could have pulled off that major upset and beat the SMU Mustangs. And so uh, the whole reason why I'm bringing up the UCLA Bruins and the difficulty with the UCLA Bruins and the difficulty with the Utah Mustangs is the Arizona Wildcats just cannot sleep on somebody. They cannot sleep on anybody, especially it's going to get tougher and it's going to get tougher and tougher. And so the Arizona Wildcats really need to, really need to start focusing and getting more assists and as a team, playing more as a team, because I think that the Arizona Wildcats were playing a little bit more individual ball against Texas Southern, and I think that's one of the reasons why Texas Southern actually failed in this game was because they weren't playing enough team ball. But what Texas Southern was doing was what they were doing that was really awesome is they would do dribble penetration and they would kick out, but not kick out to somebody that was in three-point land, not somebody that was beyond the arcs, not a three-point maker, but they would kick back to somebody right behind them, so that they would dribble penetration, get into the key, and then there would be somebody that would be behind them, following up behind them, and the person that did the dribble penetration to get underneath the key, they were probably going to get blocked by the huge height advantage of the Arizona Wildcats, and they were able to kick it back and give it to another driver for the Texas Southern Tigers that was open somewhat. So they didn't kick it out all the way out to somebody that was in three-point land or beyond the arc, somebody that was open. They just kicked it back maybe less than 10 feet to somebody that was following behind them, another teammate that was following behind them, and that's why they were able to not only draw fouls from the Arizona Wildcats, they drew 4 fouls from 3 different Wildcats: Brendan Ashley, Rondé Hollis-Jeffersen, and Elliot Pitts. But that's one thing that they did. They did dribble penetration. This Texas Southern did dribble penetration, and whenever they did dribble penetration, then that height advantage kind of went out the window, because when they did the dribble penetration, then they kicked it back out, not to a three-pointer shooter, a hot shooter from the outside, but they kicked it out to to somebody that was also in the post. So they kicked it out to another guard that was really close by, maybe 10 feet, that was also inside the key, so that they could have an easier opportunity at a shot. So anyway, that's what I saw. That's why I think that's one of the reasons why Texas Southern was able to kind of stay in this game. They weren't able to win this game necessarily, but they were able to stay somewhat in this game. And so anyway, we had some really nice plays. The Arizona Wildcats had all of their starting 5 get over 12 points, get 12 or more points. We had Rondé Hollis-Jeffersen with 23 points. We had Stanley Johnson with 22 points. Stanley Johnson knocked down 4 for 5 from three-point land. And that was interesting because the Arizona Wildcats only had 5 made three-pointers. So the other person that made the three-pointer was Rondé Hollis-Jeffersen. It was Jackson-Cartwright, sorry. Parker Jackson-Cartwright. And the one thing that I did want to say that was really cool, that was really nice to see, was we had Tarczewski with 3 assists. You're not going to see that. I mean, I really wasn't expecting to get so many assists from Tarczewski, a 7-foot guy for the Arizona Wildcats. I wasn't expecting that. So I think it's great. We not only was our point guard T.J. McConnell had 4 assists, which is much below his normal. His normal is 6 assists or 7. But I think what I'm glad about the Arizona Wildcats is they distributed that assist. Uh, uh, they gave there was more players that had assists this time. T.J. McConnell had 4 assists, which is below his normal. But then I think that Tarczewski with 3 assists, and then Stanley Johnson with 2 assists, and then Brendan Ashley was getting an assist, and Rondé Hollis-Jeffersen was getting an assist, and Elliott Pitts getting an assist, and then Parker Jackson-Cartwright getting an assist. So you had 13 total assists from the Arizona Wildcats, which is below what I wanted. I wanted 15 assists for the Arizona Wildcats, but 13 assists for the Arizona Wildcats is definitely close to acceptable, especially whenever the end result is a victory in the Arizona Wildcats' favor, a comfortable victory. But anyway, I was really glad that the Arizona Wildcats had those great amount of assists from a contribution from almost all of the players, and I thought that was really great. That was something that was quite commendable for the Arizona Wildcats, and they also shot 24. They also made 24 out of 27 free throws. So they shot very, very well. They shot 88% from free throw from the charity stripe, which is I think that's one of the best that the Arizona Wildcats have ever shot this season. But I think another thing that I heard that the Texas Southern Tigers was going to try and do is get over 30 or get over 25 free throw attempts, and they had 30 free throw attempts. So they did what they wanted to do, what their goal was. They wanted to get over 25 free throw attempts, and they ended up with 30 free throw attempts. They only made 19 of those free throw attempts, but they did pretty good. And I think that's one of the things that they attempted this time. The Texas Southern Tigers' attempt this time was to try and beat the Arizona Wildcats by dribble penetration and not kicking out to the three-point land, but just kicking it out to somebody that was inside, maybe for a two-pointer. Somebody that was within the arch, kicking out a small amount, instead of kicking it all the way out to somebody that was a hot shooter, like a three-point shooter, like Gabe York or Elliott Pitts. But that's just my observations. So anyway, the Arizona Wildcats were able to pull out this nice victory against the Texas Southern Tigers. The Arizona Wildcats are going to play against Ohio State on Saturday. What time, I don't know. I'll write that down in the description. But the Arizona Wildcats beat the Texas Southern Tigers. The final score: Arizona Wildcats 93 to the Texas Southern Tigers 72.